Welcome to Real Reviews, where we take a look at major Hollywood releases and let you know if they're worth your time, money, and patience. I'm your host, Walter Benasiak. Since the early 90s, Warner Brothers Animation has been producing top-quality superhero films for DC Comics. Not all of them are winners, but the effort has been there for the most part on nearly every project. With a steady stream of films coming out every year, some really impressive original works and direct comic book adaptations have made their way out to the public. With Bruce Timm, creator of Batman the Animated Series and producer on countless DC animated titles, returning to the animation studio that defined his legacy with the new film Justice League Gods and Monsters, I thought now is as good of a time as any to count down the top 10 DC animated movies. Before we get started, let me be clear, we're only counting the animated feature films that have been released as such on home video or in theaters. No episode compilations that were rebranded as movies later, and they have to be from Warner Brothers Animation. Also, no, I'm not counting the DC Lego movies. All right, let's do this. Number 10, Justice League, Throne of Atlantis. This is a pretty recent movie coming out earlier this year, and it highlights a character long made a mockery of, Aquaman. Aquaman, Matt Lanter, is forced to choose between the Justice League and Atlantis when an Atlantean warrior invades Gotham City and Metropolis. Based on the New 52 storyline of the same name, Throne of Atlantis makes Aquaman a relatable and likable character. His origin is presented, although in a condensed form, pretty successfully. It seemed like a bit more was needed, but they gave just enough to make us care about Arthur Curry and his unknown Atlantean heritage. I'm not a fan of this animation style previously established in Justice League War, and that, along with a few other issues, prevented me from placing this higher on the list. Many other DC animated movies were very close to the number 10 spot, so as this Aquaman origin sneaks in at number 10, let's take a look at number 9. Number 9, Justice League Doom. Justice League Doom is the best Justice League animated film out there, not counting Gods and Monsters yet, of course. It's based on the Tower of Babel storyline from the comics by Mark Waid, and it hits a lot of the right notes throughout. Vandal Savage uses stolen information from Batman's secret files to mastermind a plan to exterminate the Justice League. Featuring a lot of the signature voices from the Justice League TV series, Doom measures up as a worthy successor. Being darker than the show let the story go off in a few unexpected directions and really showcased how Batman really is ready for anything, including taking down his Justice League teammates if need be. This one is definitely worth a watch for how each hero is individually taken out and how they overcome their respective predicaments. Number 8, Superman Doomsday. Released in 2007, Superman Doomsday was the first in the still continuing DC Universe animated original movies that usually have most of the players behind the scenes intact through all their productions. Of course, based on the mega mainstream Death of Superman storyline from the comic books, this film took a lot of liberties with the source material. However, the result is still one of DC's best animated movies. The Man of Steel, Adam Baldwin, battles an intergalactic killer, Doomsday, who was accidentally unearthed by the Lex Luthor Corporation. I really liked Superman Doomsday when I first saw it. It pushed the envelope with how brutal it was, but not in a way that seemed overbearing. I think a lot of people just had to get used to these films being darker than their television show counterparts. Upon recently rewatching this one, it's not quite as good as I remember, but it still holds up pretty strongly. A common complaint is that the death of Superman was such a massive event and story in the comics that there was absolutely no way they could fit in all that happened in that arc into a 70-minute movie. If they had gone the two-part route like they did with Dark Knight Returns, I think people would have been a lot happier with it. In any case, Superman Doomsday is a really nice, action-packed, succinct reimagining of the comic book event that garnered worldwide media attention. It's worth a look alone for the awesome Superman vs. Doomsday fight. Number 7, Batman vs. Robin. I'm going to get this out of the way now. The remaining spots on this list are all Batman movies, with Batman-titled films taking up 16 out of 32 spots on DC's animated movie list. They really show the most effort when the Caped Crusader is the focus of a film. Damian Wayne, the recently discovered son of Batman and the new Robin, has a hard time accepting his father's no-killing rule and soon starts to believe his destiny lies with a secret society called the Court of Owls. Being the latest DC Universe animated original movie released upon this video's posting, I really wasn't expecting much from Batman vs. Robin. It took me by surprise with how good it really was. Following the events of Son of Batman, we see the growth of the relationship between Bruce and Damian as father and son, with Damian having trouble adjusting to his father's way of doing things after being raised by his mother Talia and grandfather Ra's al Ghul. Intense friction soon widens the rift that separates Bruce and Damian's mindsets. Things are made worse when Talon and the Court of Owls start to influence Robin to rebel harder against his father. With both Talon and Batman seeing a young version of themselves in Damian, there is a fight for the younger Wayne's soul as he struggles between light and dark. These are the best moments of the film, and it's a really strong character piece for all involved. The only things I dislike about the movie are, once again, the animation style, the same as Throne of Atlantis, and I don't love Jason O'Mara's Batman. He's not bad, but there's just something sort of plain Jane about his performance. Minus one great line, he still hasn't really owned the role in the 4 movies he's done so far. The real Batman, Kevin Conroy, does show up voicing Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, in a couple short flashbacks, so that was a nice treat. This is an original film but takes a lot of cues from the comics. The title is from a short run in the comics but has nothing to do with this movie. Also, the Court of Owls are a huge part of modern DC Comics Batman stories. A few scenes are ripped exactly from the books, while most of it is used in a much different way. I'd suggest reading the Batman Court of Owls story run after seeing this. It's an interesting take on the secret society and how it was originally conceived. Batman vs. Robin is really good. You should seek it out. From now on, everything on this list is very tight. Number 6. The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1. The Dark Knight Returns is maybe the most influential Batman comic in history. 30 years ago, Frank Miller told a story that is still difficult to top all these years later. The time taken by Bruce Timm and his team to adapt this story was so meticulous that they split it into 2 parts. Bruce Wayne, Peter Weller, now 55 years old, comes out of retirement to don the cape and cowl. As Batman, he fights his old enemy Two-Face and battles a new vicious gang, the Mutants. Eventually, all this attention paid to the returning Batman awakens an old, deadly foe. This is as faithful of an adaptation as you're going to get. Everything from the tone of the dialogue to the animation style is just about directly from the pages of the graphic novel, which, by the way, if you haven't read, you should really get on that. Peter Weller as Batman is still no Kevin Conroy, but he fits perfectly into this world. The old big Batman is a really cool visual, and Weller nailed the voice. As a fan of Batman, this is something you need to go out of your way to see. Number 5. Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. This is the OG of DC animated films. It was originally planned to be a home video, but halfway through production, Warner Brothers decided to give it a theatrical release. Thus, it is the only theatrical film on the list. Being a part of Batman the Animated Series canon during that show's glory years, Mask of the Phantasm told somewhat of an origin for Batman and the Joker, while still creating a compelling new story in the present. In this animated feature, the troubled yet heroic Batman, Kevin Conroy, is pitted against a mysterious figure who is rubbing out Gotham City's most dangerous criminals, and who many believe is the Caped Crusader himself. Batman's alter ego, millionaire Bruce Wayne, is about to get married to the lovely Andrea Beaumont, Dana Delaney, who helps him recover from his need to avenge his parents' murder, meaning that his crime-fighting days may be numbered. Imagine the greatest animated show of all time, Batman the Animated Series, having a movie with a higher budget and a longer format to tell a story. Imagine no more. It's this film. With Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker, it really doesn't get any better. Also, the addition of the mysterious Phantasm is a welcome new character that is as interesting as he is haunting. If you're a fan of the animated series or just want to know who Batman is at his core, I suggest finding and watching Mask of the Phantasm as soon as possible. Number 4. Batman Year One. Another Frank Miller classic is faithfully adapted to the screen with detail and care. This story is as much about Commissioner Gordon as it is about Batman himself. Bruce Wayne, Ben McKenzie, fights his new nemesis, Catwoman, Elijah Dushku, while lawman James Gordon, Bryan Cranston, battles corruption in Gotham City. Batman Year One, the book by Frank Miller, is another well-respected work that defined not only Batman himself, but his origin. The film is very close to that comic, with some stuff having to be left out because of time constraints. It really showcases how great of a character pre-Commissioner Gordon is, and we see a lot of what's happening from his perspective. Also, with Breaking Bad's Bryan Cranston voicing Gotham's best cop, he feels that much more special. The animation and narrations in this movie are great. We see the desperation of Batman as he struggles to begin his life as the Caped Crusader. The only negative thing that dragged the movie down a bit was the voice of Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's Ben McKenzie. Best known currently for playing a young Commissioner Gordon on Fox's Gotham show, which is not a good show. I gave it a whole season, and it's just not what it should have been. McKenzie has a really weird delivery and a unique way of speaking dark dialogue. Every time I heard Bruce talk in this film, I thought of that Gotham show. If they got someone better suited for Batman, this film may have been even higher on the list. Regardless, it doesn't take that much away from the overall piece. The gritty origin of Batman is told in a great little movie based on a legendary comic book. Number 3. The Dark Knight Returns, Part 2. Part 2 is even better than Part 1. We get to see the culmination of this grim tale with tragedy, action, and the ultimate face-off, all in one film. As the Joker awakens from his catatonic state, one last devastating act causes the final confrontation between Batman and his oldest foe. All this happens before an old ally arrives, and the fight of all fights take place. Finishing off the Dark Knight Returns story called for a big ending as seen in the book. The stuff with the Joker in this film is very dark, and it had to be. The only thing I dislike about Joker in this movie is the voice acting. Just not menacing enough or powerful enough to fill out that demented smile. Not a big complaint, but I did find it odd they didn't find someone with a more powerful vocal presence. As seen in the trailers for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, a lot of the Batman-Superman fight in that film is taken directly from this particular fight between the Dark Knight and the Man of Steel. And oh boy, does it deliver. It's a phenomenal fight that has you believe Batman can hang with Superman one-on-one. Go out and see The Dark Knight Returns Parts 1 and 2. They both are just about the tops, with Part 2 edging out Part 1. Number 2. Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. Batman Beyond was a great TV show in line with Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and Justice League. I can say without a doubt that this is the best story told in the futuristic Batman Beyond world. It goes even further than that because it's the second best animated movie in the entire DC Comics lineup. In the Gotham City of the future, an older Bruce Wayne, Kevin Conroy, trains student Terry McGinnis, Will Friedle, to replace him as Batman. Meanwhile, the Joker, Mark Hamill, has re-emerged as the leader of the Jokers, a gang inspired by their evil hero, who was previously thought to be dead. Terry tries to stop the theft of communications gear by the Jokers, but the Joker himself narrowly escapes. The truth about the Joker's life and death slowly emerges through violent confrontations. This film is the perfect bridge between the original animated series and the futuristic Batman Beyond. There are very detailed flashback sequences that show how the Joker met his fate as we see the old Batman team together one more time. They serve the story well and are very dark in nature, even more demented than most of the other Joker-centric stories in the original animated series. Hearing Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy together again is always something to be excited about, adding the new dimension of Bruce's being in his late 70s or 80s and Joker having been away for so long, and you have something very unique and intriguing. Will Friedle is great as Terry, and also adds a different dimension to his verbal spats with the Joker. This new Batman isn't Bruce Wayne, so the different dynamic that is created shows us a side of the Joker we rarely, if ever, saw in any other Hamill-voiced interpretation. If you want to see how the Batman animated series ended, or why Batman Beyond is so great, this one's for you. Even if you've never seen the Batman Beyond show, this will get any Batman fan interested in the adventures of old Bruce Wayne and young Terry McGinnis. My number one DC animated movie is Batman Under the Red Hood. Under the Red Hood is a nearly perfect Batman movie. In just about 70 minutes, it introduces Jason Todd, the second Robin, has us invested in his story, and reveals new reasons why the Joker is such an important part of Batman's life. It's number one for many reasons. Let us count them. Batman faces a vigilante who aims to clean up Gotham City but does not follow his moral code. This new vigilante's identity ties into Batman's past in unthinkable ways. Based on the comic book storyline by Judd Winnick with a few pages sneaked in from the famous Death in the Family story, he actually pitched the film to Warner Brothers Animation and wrote it himself. The result is something that was obviously well thought out and is the best animated movie DC has ever produced. Jason Todd was the second Robin after Dick Grayson. He was always a hothead that didn't listen to Batman all the time and got angrier as he got older. Bruce's attempt to save this young boy ultimately became his demise when the Joker viciously beat him and left him to die in a fiery explosion. It was Batman's greatest defeat and the one that weighs heaviest on his heart. Now, years later, Batman has his hands full with the Red Hood and his seeming ties to one of Batman's old allies. The animation is great, the tone is great, it has a lot of heart. Bruce Greenwood as Batman is fantastic, John DiMaggio as the Joker is something different and in the best way possible. There are quiet character moments and great action sequences seamlessly woven into each other. It's just incredible all around. I can't recommend Batman Under the Red Hood enough. It's a victory for animation and shows how powerful Batman is in that medium. It came out in 2010 and has yet to be topped. Watch this movie. That's all I can say. So what did you think? Agree? Disagree? Tell me what your favorite DC animated movies are in the comments below. I'm hoping Justice League Gods and Monsters continues this string of mostly awesome flicks, and I'm really excited about it being a Bruce Timm original. I'm even more excited that at Comic-Con they announced that The Killing Joke is being adapted into an animated movie. That is my favorite comic book, period. I love it and can't wait to see how they adapt it. So maybe Under the Red Hood isn't as secure in that number one spot as I thought it was. Be on the lookout for more real reviews and episodes of our competitive argument show, Real Debates, coming soon. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, if it isn't reviewed here, it just isn't real. I'm Walter Bernasiak, and I will see you, all of you. I'll see you at the movies.